Okay, thank you. We're doing this in English. This is recorded, and our camera woman is Cher, who's the community manager of Unbox. Started 2 days ago, and moving along quickly with the university administration. Okay. So just to recap, the first lecture, the first of 6 lectures was on purpose. Start with the why. If you don't know why, you should go back and see the lecture online. Last week we covered disruption. You want to ride a curve, and you want to do disruptive innovation rather than sustaining innovation. We don't yet have that lecture online, but I think we should have it today, tomorrow. And I'll also put the presentation online. And the lecture today is on beachhead. So what is a beachhead? This is a picture of D-Day in Normandy. I forget the date, 1944, 1944, I think, no? No, maybe 1942.
6th of June,
June
42.
44.
6th of June 44, and the Allies, meaning the United States, and Britain and France want to get rid of the Nazis. And there are several options. You can parachute maybe 5 million paratroopers, but there will be no supplies, and they'll probably have to be shot in the air, and the others will starve. Or you can find a beachhead. You find a beach where you can land, and you can create your supply lines, and once you conquer the small town, you will find a way to get to Britain, even without waste, okay? So, there were a few beaches here, and I think this shows where the Germans had their machine guns. They were up on the ridge, and there were quite a few soldiers here. This makes 50,000, about 100,000 soldiers, and less than 10,000 were killed, so not too bad. And if you haven't seen the movies, you should see the movies. It looks pretty bad. But once they took out the machine guns, they had this very nice town, and they could advance. And this is a beachhead, and that's what you want to do with a startup. So with a startup, you don't want to parachute into Nazi Germany. You don't want to go immediately and be the target of the incumbents, of the big powers. You want to start somewhere that nobody will suspect that you're coming in there. Take that market, make a little bit of money, and then grow and then improve as you go forward. And the metaphor doesn't stretch all the way, so metaphors are only useful a little bit. So there are 7 characteristics of a good beachhead market for a startup company. So remember from what we talked last time, you want to go into an unserved market, so a market that has a problem, but it has no solution, or a very poor solution. So whatever you can give them is going to be 10 times, 100 times, maybe an infinite improvement over what they have today. And you want to know that this is a market that can lead you into bigger markets. So there is some kind of wave that you're riding. So most of the examples I will give you are more from the last 10, 20 years. And not many people in the room remember this device. This was called a radio transistor. And they appeared in the 1950s. When I had my bar mitzvah, I had some relatives in the United States, and they sent me one to Israel. It was used. Actually, I got a used device as a present. And this was the first device, a popular device that actually used a transistor. It was a discrete transistor. But you could not actually make a device like this with the big diodes that people were, with the shofarot, with the tubes that existed before. So definitely there was a need. People wanted to hear music, Elvis Presley, you know, wherever we go. And there was a paying market. You could sell these things for actually quite a lot of money. The reception was poor, the earphones were terrible. It was really a crappy device, but you could really get into the market and improve it and improve it and improve it. Until in the 80s you had the big boom boxes, very, very high quality. So number one, when you look at the beachhead, for the last few years, it's been very popular to not have paying customers, right? I mean, just get eyeballs, or get many, many customers and so on. And you grow these unicorn companies, and maybe we're getting to the end of that era. Might be. If there's going to be some kind of a crash now, they're going to suffer the most. So make sure somebody pays you. The second thing is there has to be ready access. As a startup, you cannot develop all the marketing channels, and you cannot develop a whole ecosystem. So these kinds of Zippo lighters, or another generation, you can sell them in gas stations, right? So you don't have to develop, you know, a whole retail chain. There are places where you can sell these kinds of devices. So ready access is very, very important because you don't have the capital and the resources to build access. You need to get in where there is access. It's got to be compelling. It's got to be something that everybody in your target market really, really wants. Do you know what this is? Anybody knows what this is?
Oh, the start of
Yes.
Facebook, the early days.
This is Facebook.
Facebook.
This is Facebook. It was called FaceMash. And if you are wondering why Facebook has so many problems today, that's because Mark Zuckerberg, all he wanted was for his male buddies to rate females in Harvard in his class. Okay? And this was very compelling because if you're an 18, 19-year-old smart guy at Stanford, not at Harvard, that's what you really care about. You don't care about the classes you take, you care about this, and you care about beer in the evening. So this moved like fire. This was really compelling. There was no other way. All he had to do was hack into the university computers, take the pictures of his female classmates from the applications, and he had a very compelling product that moved very, very fast. And he proved that market, because obviously students at Harvard find this compelling. Probably there is very, very big market, you know, outside of Harvard. You want to give your customers a whole product. I mean, you cannot expect your customers to go and create the whole product. You want to give them something that's easy to work with. Everybody knows Facebook. Who is actually watching movies on Facebook today? Raise your hands.
Netflix.
Netflix, I'm sorry. What did I say? Facebook? More hands? I thought there'd be many more. You may not know that they started by sending DVD by mail. And in the US market, you can create a whole product very easily because you don't have to actually ship them yourself. The United States Post Service ships letters to the door, usually go through a slot. And they lose money, which means that you're subsidized by the government in your logistics. So, and this envelope was really, really a very smart envelope. This envelope, you open it, you take the DVD out, and you put it back into the same envelope, and you close it with another flap, and you have a whole product. Now think if you're buying something from Amazon or from eBay and you want to return the product, you have to go to the store, you have to buy a box, you have to put the mailing address. It's a lot of work. It's not a whole product. This is a whole product. So whatever you do in your first market, you want to try and create something that's a whole product that your customers will not have to assemble the whole product from other pieces. It's got to be competitive, so you have to have some kind of a value proposition that's unique. Zappos, I don't know if anybody here knows Zappos? Zappos is an American company that was acquired by Amazon, I think, for $1 billion, something like that. It was started in Las Vegas, not on the Strip, in the city of Las Vegas, by a Chinese-American entrepreneur, Tony Xi, who noticed that there is a big problem when you buy shoes. And the problem is shoes don't always fit. Especially if you buy them online and they don't fit, and you want to return them, you have to go to the FedEx or UPS, you have to box it, and so on. And his value proposition was, pick the shoes, and if you don't like them, return them. You have a box like in Netflix that can, you just put outside of your door. You go online, say that it's there to pick up, and somebody will come and pick you up, and you don't even have to pay for it. You can change the shoes 15 times, 20 times, 100 times. I'm sure there are Israelis in the US that go every evening to a different party with different shoes because they change them in that way. And this was a huge value proposition. I mean, this is something that, otherwise you just can't do it, and you give up. Either you don't buy shoes online, or you're very busy, going every day to the UPS store. So you really have to have something that's competitive. And when customers don't have a solution, and you give them something, that something is usually infinitely better than what they have because they have nothing. Okay? The bad thing about that is that you don't have a competition that you can identify as a company. But your competition is an old set of habits that you need to change. So, very important, if you don't have a compelling reason, you're not going to fly, right? It's got to be a strategic move. So, if you want to capture the entire market for something, and you're starting in a totally different market, that's not a very good strategic move, right? You want to start your... So, if you want to take over Tokyo in the Second World War, landing in Normandy is not a very good strategic move, right? Because it's not close to Japan at all. This is the first version of Amazon. So Amazon knew from the beginning that they want to beat the biggest retailer in the world. They wanted to be the retailer for everything. And they thought, what is the first product that we can retail that gives us a compelling value proposition? And the compelling value proposition was that Amazon said, we're the Earth's biggest bookstore. But that was just the beginning. That's just the beachhead market. Because a few years later, they started selling DVDs and then toys, and now you can buy almost anything on Amazon. So your entry point has got to be strategic. It's got to lead you to where you want to get to in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. If it's in a different market, adjacent market, that's not a good strategic move. And last thing is you've got to have personal alignment. Meaning, you should do what you really want to do. Okay, don't select a beachhead which you hate. Don't select something that you don't care about. Select a beachhead that has all the previous 6 attributes, but also something that you feel that's close to your heart, something that you really want to do. This is an example of a company called Craigslist. It was started by a guy called Craig Newman. And this is pretty much what decimated, what really ruined the newspaper industry in the US. Because this is like a Yad Stein here in Israel, but except for maybe 5 categories, it's free, it's completely free. Right? So you have bicycles for sale, you have jobs, you have housing, and actually I think the only place where Craigslist takes a little bit of money is on housing in 5 cities in the US. And they only make $400 million a year last time I heard. But this is really close to the heart of Craig Newmark because he's an avowed Marxist. He doesn't believe in making money. He probably could have been a $40 billion company. He could have beat eBay. Maybe he could have beat Amazon. But he wants to give things for free and just make a little bit of money. So this was his entry market ended up being where he ends. Actually, well, he started with fewer categories, but it's something that was really important for him and something that he believed in. So go only into a market that you really believe in. So these are the 7 qualifiers. So when you think about the problem that you want to attack and your beachhead, it should really have these kind of attributes for you. And before we switch over to Yair, who has a more interesting presentation here, the next thing for all of you to do to really move ahead is you've got to find a problem. Right? So if you don't have a problem, you really have a problem. Right? You have to have a problem. You have to say, what is my initial market? And what problem do they have? And what kind of solution can I give that market that's good enough that I can sell to and that I can grow with that market to other adjacent market segments? So in the next 3 weeks, we're kind of shifting from, I'd say, ideological topics to practical topics. Next week, we'll talk about how you analyze competition. Everything is very trivial here. Okay? There's no rocket science. There's something called SWOT analysis, which looks at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Very, very simple, but it's a good framework to analyze competition. Even if competition is not a company, but a habit that people have today. The week after that will be on the 16th, not on the 17th, so it will be on a Wednesday. We'll talk about agile as a way of thinking, of doing things, not creating intergalactic big infrastructure solutions, but starting with something small. And I'm not sure what the word for agile is in Hebrew. Last week somebody here said zariz, I said chaper. Okay, start small. Don't plan. Don't plan it's not a hydrogen bomb. What you're doing. You want to do some kind of solution for a small market that's going to grow fast, and you don't really know what the next move is going to be, so you need to have a lot of flexibility. And the week after that, I'll introduce the customer development methodology, which is what you will be doing in the next semester. After that, the week after that, or the 2 weeks after that, we're going to have a fantastic lady here by the name of Daphna, who is an expert on how to not create presentations, how to create presentations in the right way. And especially academic presentations have their own kind of format, which is not a very inspiring format. So she will help you figure out how to really create an inspiring presentation. After those 2 weeks, we'll have another fantastic lady whose name is Idit. She is an actress, but what she does is she teaches people how to present. She's a bit overdramatic and she'll do all kinds of things like this. I can't even do that. But she will teach you how to use your body, what your body language should be like. She'll do things that, she'll show you how to do things that I should do, like dramatic pauses, and moving on the stage so people look at you, because you're the target, not the presentation. She's really amazing. And the end of February, those who don't give up will stand on stage, and you're going to inspire quite a few people, mentors and potential co-founders, to come and join you to do the next step. So this will be online, and please schedule a session with me, an unboxing session next week. And it's really to discuss your problem, what problem you're attacking, and how it relates to all these things. So I'll just ask Yair, come up. Yair, do you need a computer?
I have mine.
HDMI? Maybe come a little bit. Go ahead. I met Yair through his wife, Uti, when they were living in Palo Alto.
Your wife?
And my wife, through my wife. And actually, they were the only non-engineers that we knew in Palo Alto. And fast became our best friends, and we lived not too far from each other. And I seldom actually discuss, we seldom talk about business, we talk about other things. But Yair is a serial entrepreneur, medical doctor, eye surgeon, and when I was looking for some information on him, obviously I went to LinkedIn. He does not have a LinkedIn page, but I found his patents page, or it's in some place, unless there's another Yair there, it's quite amazing. And he'll talk about what he's doing and maybe how it relates to some of this stuff.
Thanks. Why are we speaking in English?
Because we're recording this, and eventually we want all the big companies in the world to see
Got
us.
you. Okay. So thanks everyone. Everyone? Okay. So I don't know. Searching. She'll figure it out, but I'm really down to earth in terms of, you know, Netflix, Amazon, Craigslist, all these things that I do hope that one of you will become that, but I'm not that at all. So just so I can get a sense of you guys and who you are, how many of you have some money to invest in whatever your idea is right now? One, okay, two. How many of you have what they think is a good idea to a reasonable problem? So about, I would say 40% just eyeballing it, and okay. And how many of you have a team that they are working with or will be part of it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Small, half of it. Good. So if we take these three, just by raising your hand, which one of the three you can think is the least important part? Technology, I mean the idea, technology, the team, or the money. So let's talk about who thinks money they can, you know, put aside. I would say third, the team. How many do you think that the team they can do without? You must give up one thing. Remember, it's not forced choice. So team, nobody, and the technology. I see the too few hands here. I mean, it doesn't come to 100%. So let's start again. You need to choose. You can either give away the money, give away the team, give away the technology. So who wants to give away, is willing to give away the money? Okay, I would say 50%. The technology, your technology. Maybe 15%, just eyeballing. The team, you need to give one. Okay. So unfortunately, for you, what you can really give up is your technology. Although most of you is obviously why you came here, and most of you have said, you know, that's the one thing you don't want to give up. And the reason is that in most likelihood, whatever you think your idea is, it's not going to be the idea that's going to end up. What you do need is you do need money because you need to, you know, feed your kids or whatever. You need the team, because as I learned from my experience, and I think that's true for actually everything. I mean, just raising a family, you need a team, and to start a company, you need a village. And without these two, you can't start. You can't be successful. Okay, we'll figure it out. It happens often. That's the life of an entrepreneur, by the way, just dealing with these issues. But just a little bit about myself. I'm as Ariel mentioned, I'm an ophthalmologist. I worked at the Television Medical Center. Worked at the Tel Aviv Medical Center for several years, primarily doing as a retina surgeon, and had a paycheck of about what is equivalent today to $1,500, so something like $6,000, 6,000 shekels. I enjoyed whatever I did, and I think I understand most of you are coming from the academia, correct? Is that true? What? That they're from the academia?
Yeah, that's absolutely
So very similar, I would say, lifestyle to mine in terms, I was a doctor, you're researchers, or planning to be, or whatever, but I was, I would say, pretty content with what I did, but I did have what I thought was good ideas, and it was the year 2000, and if you remember, that was just before the dot-com bubble. Many of you may not, not been in the right age back then, but it was when there was a huge hype, dot-com hype, and people wanted, especially in Israel, wanted to do, new things and similar to today. And
yeah, if you want to, you can move it to PowerPoint and put it on my computer.
so what do you want me to do? Sorry for the... Sorry about that. So in the year 2000, so the year 2000, me and a friend, a fellow doctor, we thought we had the great idea on earth. And back then we didn't know even the name, but today is what we call big data. And we said there is so much data on the medical records, and we can take all that data and really use it. And we'll take that idea, and we handed our resignation to the hospital, to the Tel Aviv Medical Center, and we took our savings and went together to San Francisco, because in San Francisco back then there was the biggest IT medicine conference, and we said, we'll come with our amazing idea. And before that, we huddled the team, and the team was, really top-notch people from the Technion and someone from Boston, and we had it all figured out. And we fly to San Francisco, and